we have got some big news that it's probably about time that we shared with you, but we're going to get to that in a bit.
We're James and Sarah, also known as the Whole World or Nothing.
After 6 years travelling the world, we traded in our backpacks, bought this old panel van and spent 5 months transforming her into Cassie, our dream home on wheels.
Make sure you've subscribed so you can join in the adventures as we hit the road and make the switch to full-time van life. First of all, we're going to do a bit of a Q&A because we've had quite a lot of new faces around here and we've had quite a lot of questions about us, about our lifestyle, about the van, what it's like living in it, all these kinds of things. So yeah, we thought we would reintroduce ourselves a little bit and answer a few of those questions.
We asked on all of our social media channels what you guys wanted to know, so we'll get to answering those first and then we will update you on our future travel plans and of course that big piece of news that we've got to share. How much did it cost and where do you park it? Right, how much did it cost? We're not actually going to reveal that right now because we're planning on doing a whole video about the costs and we've broken them down into pretty minute detail. So literally every nut and bolt I think we've got covered on this spreadsheet.
We have got a big old spreadsheet.
We have. The video is not going to be that boring going into all of that detail, but we do want to kind of reveal it in that video, the overall cost, because we've had a lot of questions about that.
We want to take you through what we spent on each element and why we chose to spend that on each element as well, so it's kind of a longer answer than just saying this is what we spent. There's a lot of reasons and thought behind it.
Absolutely. Where do we park it? We tend to stay on campsites about once a week, and the only reason that we do that is to fill up and empty our services. So that's our fresh water, empty our grey tank and empty our toilet. Other than that, we pretty much just stay wherever we like, wherever we find a nice spot that we're able to stay, that we fit and we're allowed to park. We pull up and we stay the night there.
How did we decide on the layout? So, I think probably first and foremost we watched a lot of YouTube videos.
Hours and hours and hours and hours of YouTube, yeah.
Like any van tour that there was to watch, we watched it. So we kind of got a good idea, I guess, of what was possible to create. And alongside that, we were already thinking about what kind of van we wanted to convert. So once we decided that we were going to get a Sprinter, we knew what space we had to work with. And then from there, I think it was just a kind of, I don't know, working out what was going to work for us because we live in the van full time. We definitely wanted a fixed bed because we didn't want to be putting the bed down, putting it up every day and have all that hassle. You had quite a good idea on what you wanted in the kitchen in terms of how that was going to work, the space. We knew we wanted a bathroom because again we were living in the van full time. So once you've kind of got all those elements in place, it kind of works itself out, doesn't it?
It's just about figuring out exactly where you can fit everything in that space.
Yeah, and that looks good. Yeah, that was it really. Then we just started putting it together.
Is it warm enough in winter or cool enough in summer? Okay, the temperature in this van is actually pretty good, I'm going to say.
Yeah.
We insulated it really well. We used insulation on the ceiling, the walls and the floor, which doesn't just keep it warm, it actually keeps it cool in the summertime as well. And we also installed a diesel heater, and it's a really powerful one. It heats up the space within probably about 10 minutes.
So efficient.
Yeah, even if it's freezing, it will go from freezing to warm like that. And then it retains its heat very well. In the summer, it's actually really nice as well because we've got an Air Max fan at the front. We've also got an air vent and a window at the back. Max Air.
Sorry,
I'm talking about trainers there. Yeah, we've got the Max Air fan at the front. We've also got a vent and a window at the back. So we can pop the fan on and open those vents and it just pulls through a really nice cooling breeze in the summer. So yeah, the temperature, we think we've cracked that. It's pretty good.
Is there anything you wish you'd done differently? I don't know, there are a few things, aren't there? And we probably should do an actual video about this and go into more detail about stuff that we would change, perhaps. I think the main thing for me, though, and it's probably the same for you, is the shower floor, no?
Yeah, I'd agree.
So, depending on how we're parked, because the drain for the shower is in one corner, if we're parked on a slight angle that it means the water goes the other way, it can be a little bit annoying in that it doesn't go straight down the plug hole. So I think what we would have done is contoured the floor into that corner so that wherever we were parked, it made sure that the water goes straight down the drain. I mean, it's a pretty small annoyance, really, given.
It is, and it totally depends. We can park it on an angle that means that the water goes down the drain as well, so that's what we tend to do. But yeah, I agree.
I can't think of anything else really. I guess we planned it pretty well.
What model of shower did we go for? I don't actually know the name. I think we bought it off Amazon. It was quite a cheap one. It was about 50, 60 quid, something like that. It is basically just a mixer tap, and it's got a hose on and a shower head. We went for it because it fits in the space quite nicely, and
We liked the look of it.
we like the look of it. It
Yeah.
was black, which fit with the kind of theme that we were going for. So far we've had no problems, so hopefully, fingers crossed, the fact that it was reasonably cheap doesn't actually make that much of a difference. Yeah, we're quite happy with it.
We'll put a link in the description below to it in case you want to check it out.
Interesting to see how the oven placement works. Is it in front of the fridge? Well, first of all, no, it's not directly in front of the fridge. There is a gap in between, which is the entrance to the van in front of the sliding door. So it's quite a large gap. It's probably about 3/4 of a metre, something like that. For us, the oven placement has worked really well so far. The thing that we were concerned about was not it being in front of the fridge, it was it being next to one of the seats. But actually, it's not been a problem at all. And also, if one person's cooking, then the other person can just sit in the other seat.
Yeah,
So
that's true.
it's really not affected us. One of the things that we love about the oven placement is that it is in front of the door, so when we're in a nice spot we can just open the door and it's like cooking outside really.
What's the rationale behind the security camera, and does it run off the auxiliary battery? The rationale behind the security camera is purely for security. Basically, because we've got quite a big window in the side door here in the back of the van, that's a weak point. So we have the camera facing towards that area of the van. It kind of sees everything, but it points in that direction. So basically, if anyone were to come through that window, if anyone were to break in, it starts recording straight away, and it pings us because it runs through an app on our phones and tells us that there's a problem in the van. We can look at it on the app, look at the camera remotely, so we can see exactly what's going on. It's quite good in that it picks up if someone was like looking through the window or something outside really close to the van, it would pick that up as well. And we can speak through it. It's got a speaker on it, so again, if someone were to break into the van, we would be able to shout at them and say, get out, we can see you, we've rang the police, and all that while it's recording, so we'd have the evidence of whoever had broken into the van as well. At the end of the day, it's our home, so when we leave it parked somewhere and we kind of go off hiking in the mountains for hours on end, it's just that bit of extra security and peace of mind that we've got the camera there watching over things, and we can check on it so that we know what's going on. In terms of the battery that it runs off, it has its own battery and it lasts ages. Like, we probably charge every 2 to 3 months, something like this. I think if it was recording continuously, it wouldn't last as long, but it only records when it's turned on and when there's motion. And we just charge it the same as we do all our other devices, so it charges off our leisure battery system, so from our solar panels, so the same way as we charge our phones, etc.
What was your biggest lesson through the process? I'd say our biggest lesson was that we could actually do it. Honestly, when we started, we had zero skills, we didn't know how to do anything. We'd done a few bits and pieces before, but never anything on this scale, and certainly nothing that involved all of the different skills that we needed to complete the project.
Electric, LPG, all that kind of jazz.
Woodwork, yeah. So I think really it was just that we were still capable of learning. You know, we're in our mid-30s now and you do start to get a bit worried, don't you, that your days of learning new skills and new stuff are behind you. But absolutely not. You know, we learned pretty much everything that we needed to know off YouTube.
Yeah.
It's a fantastic resource and we found it so helpful. So it's just given us a lot of confidence in our abilities to do new stuff and to learn new things.
What was your worst day on the build? I don't know, man, we had quite a few of these.
It's hard to single out one, isn't it?
Probably one of the most difficult days that first comes to mind is when we were rolling about under the van for hours and then trying to get that LPG tank strapped on.
Yes.
Because it was so tight working under there, and we were working to a deadline. It was in the middle of winter, so it was cold. It was getting dark really early, and it was just so tricky to do, wasn't it?
Yeah.
We swore quite a lot that
and
day.
we gave up as well. We did give up.
Yeah, we did.
And then
we were like, we're just going to have to leave it. We can't do this. We
Yeah.
just can't do it.
we
And
went
then-
back to it though.
Yeah.
About 5 minutes later.
Yeah, because we were like, we've got to do it, because I think we had an appointment to get the check done, didn't
Exactly,
we?
yeah.
So we had to get it on in order to move the van, and then we did actually just somehow manage to do it through sheer determination. But that was a bad day. We were arguing a lot that day.
How do you do your washing?
We don't. That's a joke.
We smell bad. Okay. We tend to save all our washing up until we have got absolutely nothing left to wear, no bedding, anything, and then we go and do it all in one go in a laundrette. They have them in pretty random places in the UK. You can find them kind of in petrol stations or in town centres. Alternatively, if we're on a campsite and they do have a washing machine, washing facilities, then we'll use those as well. So really, wherever we can and whenever we can.
Because we've been travelling for the last 6 years, that we haven't travelling as in that we haven't lived in a house. I mean, we've been using laundrettes to do our washing all that time, so it's quite a normal process for us. We haven't had a washing machine on hand for many years. What I will say is it's a lot more difficult in the UK than it was in South America, for example, because they have laundrettes everywhere and anywhere, and you just drop it off and pick it up and someone does it for you, whereas here you kind of have to do it a bit more yourself. It's like a self-service kind of thing.
It doesn't come back ironed.
Exactly.
What is your essential item when travelling? This is pretty simple for us. We don't have a water filter in our water system. That was by design, that wasn't a fault. And the reason for it is that we've been using these water to go bottles for the whole time that we've been travelling, so the past 5 or 6 years. And they actually have a built-in filter within them, which means that they filter out 99.999% of bacteria, viruses, anything that's bad for you, heavy metals, all that kind of stuff. Nothing gets through into the water. It's really pure stuff. So
we don't go anywhere without them, basically.
Exactly, and we fill them up anywhere and everywhere, from rivers, from streams, from public taps that say no drinking water. And it also means that we can pretty much fill up our tank from most places and be really confident that when we're drinking the water straight out of the tap, that it is absolutely fine for us to drink. We're going to put a link in the description to these water to go bottles as well. They're really worthwhile investment, whether you're travelling in a van or just out hiking, backpacking as we used to do. Probably our number one piece of kit that we'd recommend.
How are you finding being packed up? Any issues finding good spots? It really depends where we are, to be honest. Some places we've felt completely comfortable, absolutely fine, and then others we've struggled a little bit in terms of places to park. I think we're getting used to the feeling a lot more now we've been in the van. When we very first moved in and we started travelling around, we were kind of a little bit nervous, like, oh, should we park here or not? Like, is it okay, etc, etc. But now we're a lot more relaxed about it, I think, aren't we? In terms of like, no, you know what? There's no sign saying we can't park here. The van fits in the space. We're not obstructing anything. So if anyone's got a problem with it, that's kind of more their problem than ours. We do a lot of litter picking in the places that we park in, really try to kind of promote a good image of people living in a van. We don't park in residential areas unless it's a paid car park where we're allowed to park overnight. We're kind of like off in the wilderness somewhere. So yeah, I don't know. It depends. It depends on the council in the area that we're in. Really, Northumberland was a little bit tricky. Parts of North Wales around Snowdonia were quite tricky. But other than that, you can generally find somewhere okay to park. We kind of start early-ish on an evening. So by like 4 or 5 o'clock. We're thinking about where we're going. We've like researched a few places on the map and identified them as good places, so that if it's not good at the first place or the second place we go to, we've always got time to move on and find somewhere else without getting stressed that we're hungry or we need to park up or it's getting dark or things like this. We tend to leave ourselves quite a bit of time, don't we?
Absolutely. We haven't actually had any issues in terms of anyone coming and knocking on the door or telling us to bugger off. Nothing like that whatsoever. We haven't had anyone being rude to us. So a lot of the issues that we have found is mainly just signs and a general feeling that we're not welcome in some places. Just to expand on what Sarah was saying about giving ourselves options, we also made an agreement that we would try to never ever get stressed about finding a parking spot.
Yeah.
So I think it's something that could be an issue, particularly if there's 2 of you in a van. But we remind each other if we're having a hard time getting a parking space that, you know, it's not the end of the world.
Yeah.
We're going to find somewhere. We're going to find somewhere that we like, or we're going to find somewhere that's just functional. Either way, we're going to find somewhere to spend the night. So there's nothing to really get stressed and upset over, and certainly nothing to argue about.
how is the solar working? Do you have enough? And is the battery bank big enough? The short, simple answer to that question is yes. It's all working great. We definitely have enough power. There was maybe a couple of months over the winter where we had to top up the battery bank by driving around a little bit so that it charged the battery a little bit extra from the battery to battery charger. But now that it's summer, we just have an abundance of power, like more than we can use coming through the solar panels into the battery bank. I don't think that we have any appliances that I didn't calculate for, so we haven't got anything extra that we're running that we hadn't planned for, which is obviously good. Yeah, it's all working great. I'm quite surprised about it, to be honest, considering that it's the first electrical system that I ever designed, but I did spend quite a lot of time doing it, and yeah, it's working great. I don't think there's anything at all that we would change about it, right?
No. Just to add though, the system that Sarah designed wasn't actually necessarily for the UK. We were planning on mainly being abroad in sunnier places.
Yeah.
So that 2 months over the winter, we never intended to actually be here over the winter anyway.
We're not planning.
And hopefully moving forward, yeah, we're not going to be here over the winter.
Yeah.
So it won't affect us in the way that it has this winter.
Yeah, it was purely because it was a UK winter and the weather's really shit here.
Have we had any particularly cold nights, and is our diesel heater working well? We have had some cold nights, yeah.
It snowed a lot during the winter.
Quite a lot, yeah. We spent the winter in Yorkshire, and anyone who knows the UK knows that the north of the UK or England gets pretty cold. So yeah, we had a few cold nights. We found the diesel heater works really well. As I mentioned in an answer to another question, the space heats up like that. It's a really small space to heat, and also we insulated it really well as well. So we've never had any issues with being too cold. If anything, it can be the opposite because the diesel heater is so effective that sometimes it gets a bit warm. That's not an issue for us.
No.
We love the heat.
Yeah.
We'd rather be sitting here in a t-shirt and shorts in the dead of winter than actually freezing.
The other thing, let me just add, is it works off this little remote which we have by either side of the bed. So in the winter, as soon as we woke up, we flick it on before we even get out of bed. So we were never cold like when we got up or anything like that. Yeah. Before we even started moving around, we made sure the van was nice and toasty. So yeah, this is probably the best thing. Other than it being efficient and heating the space up, this is the best thing about our diesel heater, I think.
The next part of this question was, do we think it is adequately warm enough to have the van in really cold climates? I'm going to answer that in two ways. First of all, we don't really plan on going to really cold climates. That's just not our thing. However, the living space of the van, yeah, no problem at all. We think it would work really well in cold climates. If we had planned to go on cold climates, like skiing trips or up mountains or anything like that in the van, then we probably would have designed it slightly differently. You can get diesel heaters with 2 outlets, and we'd potentially have put another of those outlets into the garage of the van, which is where all of our services are, to keep our freshwater tank, our boiler, and the electrical system at a decent temperature as well, because at the moment it can get quite cool under there because there's just no way for the heat to get from the living space into the garage space. But for us, that's not an issue. If you go into colder climates, potentially something that you might need to look at.
So next section, I guess, travel plans. And as I just mentioned, we're not planning on kind of sticking around in the UK for too long, especially over next winter. We're wanting to head off into Europe to warmer climates as soon as we can. But the reason we're still kind of hanging around here at the minute is the reason that I have this cushion placed strategically here, because we're having a baby. So yeah, quite big news. Shocked us too at the time when we found out.
So you might be wondering what that means for this channel, what that means for the Whole World or Nothing, our blog, all of our other social media activities.
Living in a van.
Living in a van, yeah. Well, the plan is pretty much the same as it always was. We still want to travel. We still are going to be making videos. We're not going to be changing into a baby vlog or anything like that. We're still going to be doing the travel stuff that we have been doing for years and years and years. And we're still going to be carrying on releasing the build videos as well every Sunday, as we have been doing for the past 3 or 4 months. So for the time being, nothing is going to change.
No, I think probably for you guys, other than you seeing a kid popping around on screen now and again, hopefully probably not that much will change. I think it'll just be for us, really.
Yeah.
We're still planning on living in the van, absolutely, 100%. Having a baby for us wasn't kind of one thing or the other in terms of like, if you're going to have a kid, now you've got to settle down, etc. We still very much want to and will carry on with the lifestyle that we live, which is full-time travel. At the minute, of course, that's in a van, and yeah, we'll just figure it out and make it work. But I'm sure a few of you have got plenty of questions, so do drop them below in the comments and we will try and answer them as best we can.
If you enjoyed the video, please give it a thumbs up. If you're happy for us for our news, give it a thumbs up. We don't want any thumbs down on this video, do we?
No, that would be cruel, wouldn't it? The next video that we are back with won't just be us sat here in the van, it will be a travel video, so we'll be publishing our content from Wales, from the road trip that we did there, all around. If you follow us on Instagram, you already know that we've been there and been exploring all around there, so hopefully you're going to enjoy those videos. We really enjoyed that trip and we can't wait to show you what we got up to.